The internet is going bonkers with this one.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at criminals who died before facing punishment from the legal system or before a formal sentence was finalized. We're including criminals who were set to be executed, but ultimately left the building through a different exit. Technically, all of these criminals faced some form of justice, just not what the system had in mind.
That's part of the story here. There's so many weird sort of connections.
Amato Kio Fuentes. Taking over the Juarez cartel, Amato Kio Fuentes became one of the most infamous and elusive drug lords of his generation. He literally flew over the DEA's radar, moving drugs via jets. Earning the nickname Lord of the Skies, Carrillo's reign came crashing down in July 1997.
He was the king of political law enforcement corruption in Mexico.
There was a time when Amato was moving drugs in old commercial airliners, moving it by the ton. 10 tons of coke, pure Colombian coke.
The 40-year-old kingpin checked into a small Mexican clinic for liposuction, as well as plastic surgery to drastically alter his face. It's believed that Carrillo wanted to change his appearance to evade authorities. This ironically proved to be Carrillo's undoing. After 8 hours of surgery, Carrillo died in his hospital bed, apparently due to complications. DEA Administrator Thomas A. Constantine found some satisfaction in Carrillo's death, saying, quote, "There is a special place in hell for those like him."
After the death of Amato Kio Fuentes, a drug war in the true sense of narco-traffickers fighting each other emerged.
Showman Bannery. Behind the bow ties, collars, and SNL sketches, Chippendales houses a dark story laced with money, fire, and murder for hire. Showman Steve Bannery founded Chippendales, trailblazing the idea of male dancers taking it off. Bannery was intimidated by competition, plotting to burn down rival club Moody's Disco.
He was all about making the buck, and whatever got in his way, he would try to eliminate not only his competition, but people that he felt had done him wrong.
He also had a bone to pick with business partner and choreographer Nick DeNoia, ordering his assassination. In addition to having DeNoia killed, Bannery conspired to take out 3 other former Chippendales employees before being apprehended. Shortly after accepting a plea bargain of 26 years, Bannery was found dead in his cell with a bedsheet piece around his neck. Chippendales and its assets went to Bannery's wife, who sold the brand for $2.5 million.
Steve Bannery had immigrated to the United States to fulfill his dreams of success. Blinded by his pursuit, he confused power and the accumulation of wealth with the American dream.
Bela Kish. Bela Kish stands out since the whereabouts of his body are unknown. Considering that he was born in the late 19th century and disappeared in 1916, though, it's safe to say he went to the grave without confronting justice. Claiming no less than 24 lives, 23 being women, this Hungarian serial killer was known for pickling victims, encapsulating them in metal drums. When the bodies were discovered, Kish was away at war. The military was alerted about Kish, who was tracked down to a Serbian hospital. Before he could be apprehended, Kish flew the coop. Kish was supposedly spotted a few times afterward, the most recent alleged sighting being in 1932 in New York. Whether or not this was Kish, justice remained a step behind. Philip Markoff. On paper, Philip Markoff had a bright future ahead of him, attending Boston University School of Medicine and engaged to a fellow medical volunteer.
This was, by all accounts, an all-American boy. Good-looking guy. Friends say he was very normal. Went to parties in college, the kind of guy that would be walking around the campus.
Markov's desktop painted another portrait. The medical student was linked to 3 robberies, one of which ended in murder. The 3 victims had all posted ads on Craigslist, which Markov allegedly responded to.
I think Philip Markoff gave in to his demons. He completely gave in to his dark side.
Dubbed the Craigslist killer, Markov insisted that he was innocent, although his actions while incarcerated suggested otherwise.
I would say this was overwhelmingly the most damning amount of physical evidence I've ever found in a case.
After multiple attempts to take his own life, Markov's body was discovered in his cell. At the time of his demise, Markov was facing charges of armed robbery and first-degree murder, among others. His death occurred almost exactly 1 year after he was supposed to get married.
Had this case gone to trial, there is no doubt whatsoever in my mind that we would have convicted him of murder in the first degree, and he would be spending the rest of his natural life in prison.
Alva Campbell. Committing multiple crimes across various countries, Alva Campbell was convicted of murdering a man at a Cleveland bar in 1972. He was paroled after 2 decades, but he returned to court in 1997, facing armed robbery charges. Faking being paralyzed, Campbell leapt from his wheelchair, carjacked teenager Charles Diles, killed him, and was eventually caught again. Franklin County prosecutor Ron O'Brien described Campbell as, quote, the poster child for the death penalty.
He was tried and convicted and sentenced to die. That was 20 years ago. And that's another reason, Abe Bonowitz says, a sentence of death in prison makes more sense than execution.
While Campbell was scheduled to be executed in 2017, the medical team struggled to find a vein to inject the lethal dose.
They spent a lot of time with that ultraviolet light and the tourniquets on his arms, and they tried, but it wasn't there.
The execution was postponed to 2019, although it was believed that Campbell wouldn't live that long due to his deteriorating health. These suspicions were correct. Campbell died from terminal conditions in March 2018. Doyle Ham. Doyle Ham was sentenced to death after murdering motel clerk Patrick Cunningham in 1987. Like Alva Campbell, though, Ham's health declined faster than the wheels of the justice system. In addition to being diagnosed with lymphatic cancer in 2014, Ham lived with hepatitis C. The medical staff spent over 2 hours trying to locate a suitable vein, missing the execution deadline.
It was a time issue that, because of the lateness of the hour, they recommended that we not continue.
You could say that Ham cheated death, but the effects of the failed execution reportedly left him as, quote, a shadow of himself. Although Ham pursued legal action as a second execution was pursued, the cancer ultimately claimed his life in 2021. While he dodged the death chamber, Ham arguably traded one grim fate for an even slower, more painful end. Deborah Jean Pelfrey.
The D.C. madam, a woman who powerful men feared for what she knew about them.
Coming from a legal background, Deborah Jean Pelfrey was driven to start her own escort business. This led to a 1992 conviction, with Pelfrey spending 1.5 years behind bars. She went on to create another escort agency, Pamela Martin and Associates, in Washington, D.C.
You could drive down the streets of Washington and look at every building on your left and your right, and in each and every one of those buildings, we had clients.
Nicknamed the D.C. Madam, Martin amassed a list of prominent clients, including Louisiana Senator David Vitter. Although Martin claimed that her business was legit, she was convicted of money laundering, racketeering, and using the mail illegally. Facing between 6 to 55 years, Martin's body was found in a storage shed with multiple notes left behind in her bedroom.
I'm not going to let these people get away with it.
Although her death sparked plenty of online conspiracy theories, Martin had sworn she would never return to prison, and the autopsy backed this up.
Police said they did not suspect foul play.
Josef Mengele. Nazi Germany produced numerous monsters, so the fact that Josef Mengele was dubbed the Angel of Death is saying something. In addition to conducting fatal experiments at Auschwitz, Mengele played a role in selecting who entered the gas chambers and would release the poison himself. When World War II ended, Mengele fled from Argentina to Paraguay to Brazil as West Germany and Israel attempted to track him down.
The Auschwitz-Birkenau doctor is wanted for mass murder and also for performing unspeakably cruel medical experiments.
Yet even Nazi hunters like Simon Wiesenthal were unable to bring Mengele to trial. While Mengele was never captured, he did get his comeuppance. After enduring a stroke while swimming in Brazil, Mengele drowned in 1979. Mengele had adopted a new name, but the authorities would connect his remains to the Angel of Death 6 years later. Jeffrey Epstein. The downfall of Jeffrey Epstein is among the most notorious and surreal true crime stories of the past century, or any century. It's hard to say what's more shocking: how many famous names were linked to Epstein, or the fact that he only served 13 months when initially convicted in 2008.
That so-called sweetheart deal drew blistering criticisms from victims who said they were never consulted.
However, we can all agree that the most bizarre chapter came in 2019 when Epstein was arrested again for sex trafficking. Just over a month later, it was determined that Epstein hanged himself in his cell.
The DOJ says there were numerous and serious failures by the correctional staff, including failing to ensure that Epstein was assigned a cellmate.
Countless conspiracy theories followed in place of what undoubtedly would have been a trial for the ages.
I'm sure many people wanted him dead. He had a lot of information on a lot of people, a lot of blackmail, videos and pictures.
Epstein didn't get his day in court, but his partner Ghislaine Maxwell did, being sentenced to 2 decades in federal prison. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Lee Harvey Oswald. Another conspiracy theory magnate, Lee Harvey Oswald would go down in infamy as the man who shot President Kennedy.
We do know this. That day marked the end of an era. The end, as a grieving Mrs. Kennedy suggested, of Camelot.
Surprisingly, Oswald initially wasn't arrested for Kennedy's assassination, but for the killing of Officer J.D. Tippit, who he shot after fleeing from the book depository. It didn't take long for the authorities to link Oswald to Kennedy's murder.
Any effort to explain what happened in Dallas must explain Lee Harvey Oswald. And Lee Harvey Oswald is a mystery wrapped up in an enigma, hidden behind a riddle.
With the nation grieving, many felt that justice couldn't be served soon enough. Nightclub owner Jack Ruby took matters into his own hands, fatally shooting Oswald 2 days later during a police escort. Rudy wanted to spare Jackie Kennedy, quote, the discomfiture of coming back to trial. Although Rudy's conviction and death sentence were overturned, a pulmonary embolism claimed his life before he could receive a new trial.
When Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald, there went our ability to question the one man who pulled the trigger.
Which of these crime stories shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.
Well, this Epstein case is probably the most blatant example of a public murder of a crucial witness I've ever seen in my entire life, or anybody's ever seen.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.